Hello viewers, we're back in Starfield again. We're doing another video on my Starfield for Beginners series. This time we're going to be covering power management. So this was covered very early in the game, just minutes after you took off in Frontier the very first time. Vasco explained some of these details, but I'll wager most of you people were on such an information overload that you didn't really absorb a whole lot of what he was saying. So I'm going to go through some details here. First off is your power management is in the lower left corner of the screen. Your ship condition is shown in the lower right corner of the screen. The big circular icon shows your charge to your active weapons. It shows your speed, and it shows the amount of charge you have in your boost. So your maximum speed with A-class engines tends to be 150. You can generally boost until the gauge runs out, and then you'll have to wait for it to charge up again before you can boost a second time. Now, we're going to leave ourselves set at maximum, and I'm going to explain some of the systems in the power management. The three on the left have to do with weapon systems. The three on the right have to do with ship systems. The engine and shields are the only two ship systems that you really need to worry about. Grav drive you can leave completely empty all of the time. That only comes into play when you're trying to jump to another solar system. So if I reduce power to the engines, that will start to slow down the maximum speed of the ship. And I don't know why my controller doesn't seem to like shifting these things out of here. Because I can hear that the thing is reacting, but it just doesn't want to remove power from these systems. Sorry about the alarm. And if you transfer all of the power out of a system, it goes completely offline. So maximum speed is 0, and my shields are completely offline. Now, each of those sections has a possible maximum of 12 units. Engine has 6 because each of the two engines on the ship take 3 power each, and the shield generator can take a maximum of 3 power. The grav drive, it looks like, could hold a maximum of probably 8 power. But I would never actually run it at 8 power, and I'll explain to that in a little bit here. So as you can see, adding power increases your maximum shield in kind of the increments. You know, like, so for instance, since there's 6 power, 1 bar will give you 1/6 of your total maximum speed if you completely charge the system. And the same thing with shields. If I give it 1 bar, it's 33, 2 bars is 66, 3 bars is 100%. And if you had a shield that would go up to that consume 4 power for full power, then it would be in 25% increments. Now the missiles or the weapon systems on here, I'm just going to reduce some power from the engines. And I'll take some of the shield power offline to give us a little bit more to work with. Okay, if I put maximum power to lasers, and if I were using a right trigger, you see that little white bar graph underneath where it says laser? That'll deplete, and when it gets down to nothing, it won't recharge, or it'll have to recharge itself. It'll stop firing when it completely runs out though. I'm holding the fire button down. And it can only fire as it puts enough juice into that system to do a single shot. Or if I let it fully recharge, it charges up fully quite a bit. Now if I drop this down to only 1 power bar in there, it starts at 100%. But now you can see it's going to take much longer to get recharged. So you'll still have the same rate of fire. You'll still have the same amount of damage coming out of the weapon. It just takes longer to recharge the weapon. Now if I run that down and I just hold the fire button, you'll see that the interval between the shots gets a little bit longer because it's not putting as much power back into the capacitor of that system. With the ballistics, it's the same idea. If I start at full power, then if I drop it down to a single bar, it'll use up basically all of the power in that capacitor every time it fires, and then it'll have to wait until it charges up again in order to fire again. So more power, high rate of fire, less power, slower rate of fire. But it's still the same amount of damage per shot. Missiles, same deal. You start at 100% charge on that. And this is holding the fire button. And then the missiles are depleted, and you'll see that it will start to recharge. There's a bit of a delay before it starts. And eventually it recharges to 100%. Now, if I drop that down to only one power bar, I still start with that 100%. I still get the same rate of fire while it's draining it. But what changes is it'll take much longer in order for it to start to recharge, and it'll definitely take much longer before it gets back up to 100% charge. So that's where you sort of run into to issues with the weapon power. You can run them at reduced levels, but you have to use them a little bit more sparingly. Usually on my ships, because I don't want to split my power too many different directions, I'll have a primary weapon and a secondary weapon rather than 3 different weapon groups. So I might run particle beams as weapon number 1, and missiles as weapon number 2, and I won't run anything on weapon number 3. That way you can put more power to each of those systems and make each of them work a little bit more efficiently. And with particle beams, for instance, they do equal damage to shields and hull, whereas lasers do more damage to shields, less to hull. Ballistic do more damage to hull and less to shields. But that means that at any particular time, one of those weapons is just kind of sitting there gathering dust, and you generally aren't transferring your power around all that quickly while you're in combat. Usually you set things up the way you want them to be, and you fight for your life and pay attention to ship handling and other aspects of the combat, rather than having to be transferring power back and forth all the time. Now the one final thing is that if you transfer all of the power out of a system, then the capacitor drops immediately to 0, and you can't use that system at all. I have no power for missiles, I have no power for the ballistics on here, and you'll see that the thing will go red as I push the button for it to just basically tell you that there is no power. So it doesn't leave that 100% charge in the capacitor. It basically instantly drops it down to 0. And so if you've got a weapon, you probably want to run it at least 1 bar of power just to make it functional at some level. Now the other thing is that you have your total power shown down at the bottom there, and on this particular ship the reactor puts out 14, but you generally want to have Vasco on your crew because he will add a level of power to it. He'll add 1 extra power bar through the aneutronic fusion skill that he has. If you can find other crew members that might have that skill and possibly might have it trained to level 2 or 3, they would be a better choice than Vasco, because they would add 2 or 3 different power bars to the ship. Or perhaps you would want to have Vasco and them on your crew just to give yourself the maximum amount of power possible, or simply upgrade to a better reactor. And in the early game, they're not that expensive. You know, I could run this thing up to a reactor with, say, 18 units of power at a fairly nominal charge. You know, like you do a couple of missions, you could probably afford to do it. Anyways, that's just a short little explanation of how the power systems work on the ship. And oh, we should finish off with the grav drive, and I'm going to show you that first. We're going to do a jump to a different system. So we'll jump over to this system. I've selected it, but there's no actual power available in order to do the jump. So it's going to sit here and it's going to say jump drive pending, and you have to power up the grav drive. And normally I don't have any power going to the grav drive at all. If you start getting your ass kicked in combat, it's easy enough to just transfer one unit out of your weapon and put it into the grav drive. It takes about, I believe, 7 or 8 seconds to charge and to do your jump.
Switching over to standard engines.
And I might have to come back here because I don't think I've been there. But we're going to do a jump back to the previous system we were just at. Star station. Sensor contact. Okay, I might have to come back here for another video. So we're going to jump back to Arcturus. And first I want to make sure that I have no power available. And I'm going to plot the jump. And the reason that I wanted to make sure that there was no power available was because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to automatically do the jump. If you have anything sitting in the reserve down in the lower horizontal bar, it'll automatically put whatever you have into the grav drive. Now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer a ton of power into the grav drive. And you'll find out how quick it jumps if you throw a lot of power at it. And at full power, it's only about a second or so.
Nice work.
But honestly, I'm not usually bothered about the additional time that it takes. So my preference is generally to leave the grav drive with nothing and give it 1 point of power when I'm ready to jump out of the system. And even if I'm in a situation where I'm in combat, I'll take it typically out of one of the weapons. I don't usually take it out of shields or engines, just because engines and shields might give you that extra little bit of lifespan. If your shields are already down, then you don't really lose anything by powering it up with like that. Yeah, it's kind of my last choice. Anyways, that's a bit of an explanation about how the power systems work on it. I hope you found it a little bit useful, and hopefully this and some of the other Starfield for beginner tutorials will be helpful to you. Thanks for watching.